Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We are your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan, and we've come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which ones should stay doomed. This is a podcast in which we'll analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season or only one episode. With me, as always, is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy!
Every summer, Stay Doomed seems to do one of these.
Yes, we were overdue for this one.
Welcome to 1958's The Adventures of SuperPup.
Of SuperPup!
Your product, the best of its kind in the world, presents The Adventures of SuperPup. Faster than the speediest jet. More powerful than the mightiest rocket.
Yes, this is a spinoff of Superman.
Yes.
If you hadn't figured that out. And it is a live-action SuperPup television show, but like it's a man in a dog costume, but like a mascot costume.
It's several people in dog costumes.
Yes, everyone's a dog.
Yes.
So let's jump into this. This is The Adventures of SuperPup. We start with a mouse puppet.
Yes, and he is our narrator.
Now, I never catch his name, but I assume it's some sort of pun of Jimmy Olsen. It's going to be like Mousy Olsen. Like, it's not going to be clever. It's going to be Jimmy Olsen and the word mouse slammed together somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be as clever as, like, I would love it to be, which would be, like, Jimousen.
Yeah, that's a good try. That's something, at least. And he gives a introduction to what this show is. An introduction we have to watch twice because we're confused.
Yes.
Yep, that's SuperPup. And only you and I know that SuperPup is really Bart Bent, star reporter for the Daily Bugle. Wow!
So, few things we got to break down here. It's Bart Bent instead of Clark Kent.
Yes.
Bark, decent pun. Bent, not so much. But I understand they wanted to keep the alliteration. Sure. Why is he from the Daily Bugle?
I don't know.
So if you're not a big comic book fan like us, the Daily Planet is where Superman works. The Daily Bugle is where Spider-Man works.
And Spider-Man will not have debuted yet.
Right, so it was really
Spider-Man's
odd.
a couple years away at this point.
And I assumed that they were making like a pun, and it was going to be like Daily Beagle. But no, they just say Daily Bugle.
Yep.
Very odd. Don't know why this is happening. But we start off very confused. And my first note is, hello, furries. Because this is a furry dream right here, as everyone is an anthropomorphic dog.
Oh, see, my first notes are the following. Stock footage of a rocket launch. Oh no, it's a guy in a suit. Oh no, oh no. Oh, a puppet.
Oh, a puppet. So, we start with a chat between Bark Bent
And Terry Bite.
and Terry Bite, which I really want to stress this. In the Superman comic, his name is Terry White.
Perry White.
Perry White. So the pun is they're taking Perry and make it Terry, like a terrier. Mm-hmm. And White to bite.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense. The pun has nothing to do with a terabyte. Like the large piece of data.
Correct.
Because terabytes didn't exist yet.
Yeah, we are quite a while from thinking about terabytes.
Yeah, so this is our second, accidental pun.
Yes.
It's in the last, 2 weeks.
We also have Pamela Poodle.
Pamela Poodle instead of Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Which they want to keep the alliteration, so it's understandable.
And the police officer is named Sergeant Beagle.
Sergeant Beagle. And they are discussing that they hope, or that they're glad that they captured the devious Professor Sheepdick.
Professor Sheepdip.
Sheepdip.
That's not what we heard. We're like, are they saying Sheepdick right now? No, it's Dip. But we thought for a while it was Dick. But luckily...
They literally hold up a newspaper saying otherwise, which otherwise we would have absolutely... So, I do want to point out, not only are these actors in suits, all of the actors are little people. Because
all of them?
Yes.
Because I know Terry is a little person.
They all are.
Oh, because at one point Terry stands up on a desk and is eye to eye with SuperPup.
I mean, you can still fake that.
Okay, I thought, that was just...
So...
would show different height.
Because it's filmed on the same set as the existing Superman television show.
Okay.
So, it's to scale them to dog size.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And I wanted to bring that up because I felt I don't want to erase these performers' work. So I wanted to, bring this up. And these are all performers who continue to work for the most part. So these are actors who also did voice work. And, one of the actors was a munchkin and a winged monkey in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
So these were, people who were doing pretty consistent work throughout. Several of them seem to be going right up through the 70s.
Oh, wow.
A few of them were in the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings, either as character models or voice actors.
Oh, interesting.
And I just found that very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Because D23 was recently.
Yes.
And they are remaking Snow White.
I did not learn this.
So this remake of Snow White has caught a lot of controversy because they are reimagining her 7 compatriots.
Okay.
They will not be the 7 dwarfs.
Okay. It was just going to be Snow White and 7 sevens?
It's going to be Snow White, 6 dudes and a lady.
That's a really busy title. They should clean that up a bit.
And they're not casting little people in these roles. And there's been several, there's been several there's been several currently performing actors who have complained about this, such as Jason Acuna, better known as Wee Man from Jackass, Stay Doomed alum.
Yes.
And Dylan Possel, better known as Swoggle or Hornswoggle, depending on whether you were watching independent wrestling or WWE.
Right.
And so I wanted to take the time to not erase these performers' contributions, because I know that's a topic that's kind of on people's minds right now.
So, did they say that they're at least casting 7 individuals, or is this going to be CGI nonsense, which is where my mind immediately went?
I mean, frankly, it's a Disney live-action remake, so I think it's going to be
Tim
CGI
Burton,
nonsense.
Oompa-Loompas.
I mean, I think they're going to be 7 different people playing the roles, but they're probably still going to look like CGI nonsense.
Okay.
I have to admit, I haven't really been the biggest fan of the remakes Disney's been doing with live action.
I've seen none of them.
That's not true.
While Pinocchio is walking around, he just finds horse poop and just drops his apple into it.
Yeah.
And then Honest John takes Pinocchio's apple and eats it. And I go, no, Mr. Fox, it's got poop on it! You're eating poop! The fox eats poop! Okay, so I saw Pinocchio.
I saw Pinocchio, I saw Beauty and the Beast, I saw at least one or two of the others, and to me they're also just horrifically unmemorable.
Yeah.
And they are largely CGI noise.
Yeah.
I really wanted to enjoy Little Mermaid, and I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I do want to eventually watch that one.
So,
I kind of just wanted to touch on that just because that's something that's currently an issue that's being discussed.
yeah, I think that's an interesting point to bring up.
And how some of these current day performers are upset that roles written for actors that look like them have actually been erased in the name of some sort of imagined form of, well, we don't want to represent you poorly, so now we're not going to represent you at all.
Right.
And I kind of had that, I was thinking about that when we were watching this, because D23 was this weekend while we were watching this. And I thought it was super interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Professor Sheepdip,
Yeah.
worst segue ever,
Yeah, Professor Sheepdick
is in jail with a saw, like a cartoon.
with a saw and is wearing war medals. Like, he has war medals on a lab coat that he's wearing in prison. And he has a saw that he uses to cut his way out of prison.
Whilst distracting Sergeant Beagle.
Yes, who is a hound dog, because for some reason hound dogs are always cops.
Yes.
Why? I've always noticed that they always want to put hound dogs as, like, police officers or Sherlock Holmes types. I'm guessing because their nose is so good that they're, like, always sniffing out people.
Yeah, I mean, they did use bloodhounds for crime investigations.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the reason.
That makes sense.
I'm picturing Toby from The Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah, like, that's another keen example of, like, bloodhounds are police dogs.
Sergeant Beagle is literally making one of those paper people chains.
Yes, I don't know why. Like,
To show he's not paying attention. And he's distracted, and he's essentially a Keystone Cop.
Right, but there's no people in this world. We're in a world where all people are dogs. So why would he make people?
I am willing to bet the props person didn't want to design. This was made for not very much money. Mm-hmm. Like, visibly not very much money. And I'm sure whoever was designing the props didn't feel like trying to figure out a dog.
I'm just saying that is a massive plot hole in the reality of this superhero dog show.
I mean, yes and no. If a lot of the sets are scaled to human size, we can assume that ostensibly people exist.
No, give me one other piece of evidence that there's a person. Exactly.
There is...
Stay doomed.
Excuse me. There's clearly writing on signs that could only be done with opposable thumbs.
They have thumbs. They have thumbs, Laura.
I'm just trying.
They are humanoid, but there are no people, is what I'm saying. You're in a different argument with me.
So the Keystone Cops were like silent film policemen, and that's clearly what Sergeant Beagle is like intended to be a parody of, because they were in the like early silent films, and Sergeant Beagle sucks at his job.
Yes. We then get like a comedy of errors, bunch of like silly things happen.
Yeah.
The cop gets into his car and it won't start, so he hits it with his billy club.
Yes.
At one point, the cop fires a cannon.
Yes.
At Professor Sheepdip.
And we see an explosion, and then Sheepdip's wolf comrade.
Yeah, because he has a wolf friend.
Goes, "Missed us, boss." And my next note here is This show walked so HR Pufnstuf could run.
Yes.
Several of these performers later appear on HR Pufnstuf.
Get out, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
As just like, performers in some of the like puppet costumes.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, look.
So there's
I'm not the only one who made this connection.
There's also this other like silly moment where Sheep Dip pulls over and there's a sign that says like to town.
Yes.
And he turns it the other way so it says they went that way.
Amazing.
And that fools the police officer. Just great like comedy shenanigans, very like Three Stooges cartoony hijinks taking place here.
I really liked that. I thought it was a very...
Oh, I thought it was fun. So, one can only wonder what devious plans Professor Sheepdip and his wolf comrade could be up to.
They're making a bomb.
They're making a bomb, and
It looks like a Molotov cocktail.
Well, they make a fluid, and then they dip a paper plane in it, and they throw the paper plane out the window, and they then cut to like an atomic bomb going off.
Yes.
And it's like, all right, so now the plan, obviously, is to get this to the Daily Bugle for reasons. So what's the best way to do this? Well, first, they have to pour it into a different vessel. And they spill so much of it.
Oh, yeah.
This is where it's becoming very obvious that the actors can't see.
Yes.
They spill an unbelievable amount of this. They hand what they've poured into a bottle to the fox, who then disguises himself in a clock.
The wolf.
The wolf is in a clock, like a grandfather clock, and tries to like waddle out. And this might be my favorite moment of the whole thing. Sheepdip tries to open the door for the fox so the fox, as a clock, can leave.
Yes.
And he can't find the doorknob because he can't see. So, like, there's a moment of him just, like, whacking the wall until he finally makes contact with the doorknob. Opens the door, and then he does a little jig. He does, like, a little devious jig.
Over here! Over here! No, this way, you clumsy lummox!
Like, yeah, we're gonna get him with the... This is so ridiculous. On, like, so many levels.
And I will say, these are pretty par for what these costumes would have looked like. I've done some studying of Disney, and essentially, if you look at, I'm gonna jump scare Noah.
What's happening?
This is what the mascot costumes at Disneyland used to look like.
What? They're oddly hippie. Like,
yeah, Mickey Mouse was definitely played by a woman in that picture.
That Mickey Mouse got curves.
But these look very authentic to what that kind of costume design looked like. So they're faintly terrifying. Because they don't have the technology. Defunctland actually covers this really well in their Nickelodeon Hotel episode about how difficult three-dimensional suits are to design.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have to photograph.
Yes.
And these are clearly not the pinnacle of design yet.
No, I mean...
I think you're absolutely right that the actors can't see.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you gotta remember, I was those things for birthday parties. Like, I've been SpongeBob, I've been Dora the Explorer, and there's no seeing in those costumes. Like, when I was SpongeBob, I was basically in a box.
Yeah.
And the eyes were the only thing you could see through. But that's not where my head was. The eyes were like a yard apart. So I could kind of like shift back and forth inside it to eye, but there was no like actual visual. It was just like, am I running into a wall currently? Or will that happen in the future? Like, that was my experience.
We also, like, haven't seen Bark Bent.
Yes! I was like, it's been a while since we've seen
We mostly spent
character.
time with the dumb cop and the villains.
Yeah, I guess this is to, like, build excitement for the arrival of SuperPup. But if I was a child, I'd be like, I'm bored. Where's the super dog?
My note. This is doofy as hell.
This is very doofy. So
We then finally get to Bark Bent at his desk, and his little mouse roommate is complaining that Bark Bent is putting his half-eaten sandwiches in the desk. Don't you know that's how you attract mice?
Ba-rum-bum-bum. There's also a moment where, like, he's trying to find the escaped Professor Sheepdip, and the mouse says,
Incidentally, what are you going to do about recapturing Professor Sheepdip? I wish I knew. I've got to find him, but I don't know where to start looking. Why did you look in the yellow pages?
and Bark Bench just locks him in a drawer.
Yeah.
Like, for that joke. While this is happening, the clock has arrived in Terry Bite's office.
Yes.
And the fox is inside the clock.
Wolf.
Is it a wolf?
Yes.
I thought it was a fox because they're sly.
I saw him Sheepdip's dude. I did see a name for the character in my research. I'm just trying to find it now. He's mostly sheep. I found and then lost something with the character names. I thought I have him in my notes as Great Value Big Bad Wolf.
I mean, I guess a wolf would make more sense if they're all dogs.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess there's also a mouse, so there could be a fox, but
But where are the cats?
the dogs killed them. Dogs hate cats. So the creature is in the clock trying to light this bomb on fire.
Yeah,
or
and
light the fuse. And he's going, matches, matches, I need matches, I need matches. And he can't find any. So he just walks out of the clock.
Yeah.
And goes up to Terry, goes, do you have a match? And he says, sure, let me get that for you. And he lights it with a lighter.
Yep.
Not a match, a lighter. Just thought that was funny to me.
And I found it very interesting because at this point, the work print that we have does change to black and white.
Yeah, it changes to black and white because this looked like really good for a while. Like, it looked reminiscent quality-wise of like a Get Smart.
Yes.
Like that quality of like how vibrant the colors were. And then it just switches to old black and white.
Yeah, like they ran out of money to remaster this.
Yes. Terry Bite becomes surprised, so like in a jump cut, they change his mask to a more surprised mask.
Yeah.
2 and 2 makes 4. Barkman! Barkman! Barkman!
The plan was if the show was picked up, they were going to make more puppetable faces. It just wasn't in the budget.
Yeah, well, this mask is the stuff of nightmares.
This is true.
This was dropped into our Discord late at night just to bother people. Terry starts freaking out because there's a bomb, so SuperPup bursts in and just starts throwing stuff out the window.
Random stuff.
Yeah, like, oh no, bomb, let me just throw things out the window. So, if any of those things were the bomb, just innocent people walking down the street would have exploded.
Yep.
Interesting. I know it's for comedy, and it's actually quite funny.
So, he then carries the clock out to the desert
Yes.
and threatens the, wolf friend into giving him the address for Sheepdip, which he says out loud so that the audience hears it.
Yes.
And then Sheep Dip just happens to be outside the house and get the clock get yeeted at him. And
Yes.
it goes boom.
And they explode and survive.
But they're both doing the Mortal Kombat head thing right before finish him.
Yeah. Ooh. The thing that I found interesting is in this moment when they're dizzy, they play birds.
Yeah.
And, like, I always thought that was, like, more of an animation thing. When you, like, got knocked on the head, you hear birds. And like, the birds circle your head.
Yeah.
And I never really understood why that was a cliche. I understand seeing stars, because I've been hit in the head hard enough to see stars before. And there's just, like, little specks that kind of appear. And, like, the idea of seeing stars and animating that makes sense. But getting hit so hard that you hear and see birds is never been a trope that I've understood.
Yeah, it's just it's like a cartoon version of seeing stars for some reason. I wonder if it's, you know how, like, when a person actually gets hit in the head, they kind of, like, see.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, at some point, somebody was like, they look like birds, and just animated that in.
We just recently watched something about, like, clips or Easter eggs you missed in Roger Rabbit. And a big plot point of Roger Rabbit is that when he gets hit in the head, he sees birds when the director wants him to see stars. So it was just on my mind. I was like, oh wow, this trope of when you get injured, you hear birds has existed since the 1950s.
Yeah, I mean, before that, because, I mean, these are from Looney Tunes shorts in the 30s and 40s, too. I looked into the history of this, and nobody knows exactly why it's birds.
Interesting. Just something I thought I'd throw out there, because we're nearing the end of the episode already. I would like to ask if SuperPup threw this clock on the hideout of Sheep Dip, why doesn't he capture them? The answer is because there's more time left in the episode.
Right. That's it. And so Pamela Poodle is in Terry Bite's office. And another thing is that Sheep Dip can always react to things that he's not supposed to hear because it's a cartoon in the 50s.
Yeah.
Like, Terry Bite and Bark Bent will be having a conversation about, like, well, I'm glad Sheep Dip's been put away. And then it'll go to Sheep Dip going, or has he?
Or has he?
So Pamela Poodles gets a phone call asking her to cover a society tea party at the same address that we, as the audience, know is Sheep Dip's address.
Yes.
So she goes to the address and gets kidnapped.
And gets kidnapped, yes.
And gets strapped to a rocket, which I guess is the 50s space age equivalent of getting tied to train tracks.
This is such a, like, little kid playing with action figures storyline. Like, oh, what's the evil person going to do? Oh, kidnap the girl. But, like, there's no other plan here.
It's not like he knows who Bark Bent is.
No idea. No idea that there's a relationship of some sort between Bark Bent and Pamela. There's no, like, I'm gonna ransom her, or this will be my revenge. It's just, this is the only woman in the show. I'm gonna kidnap her and tie her into a rocket and shoot her into space.
Yes.
And that because I'm evil.
Why? Because I'm evil. Oh, the mouse also mentions a continuity error because they're driving and he goes, this is a different car.
Yes, this is very, like, interesting that they try to, where are we? Okay. Yes, the car that the bad guys use is a different car, so they felt the need to, like, explain it, which I thought was at least nice that they cared so much as to be like, oh, it's a different car, we're gonna have to say something.
Yeah, which I think is funny because, like, no one notices.
Well, I would like to say that, like, if they took the care to explain the car, explain how the cop is making people in this world where there's no people, there's only dogs.
Noah is desperately trying to make another fish milk happen, guys. SuperPup rescues Pamela in roughly 2 seconds.
It's like almost immediately, but then
there's no suspense.
The rocket gets shot off,
yeah.
And we spend like 45 seconds to a minute just watching a rocket move.
Almost like the rocket was stock footage that they'd already filmed for something else.
Maybe, but like now they went from like we need to like kill time, but we don't have enough time to do like an action sequence. So here's just like a rocket doing stuff. And it's not even doing anything. Like it's clearly not moving. It's just like on a plain background. And, like, they're rotating the shot.
Yes.
To make it look like it's going up and now it's going down. For far too long.
And then the villain's car goes over a cliff.
Yes.
But Sheep Dip and his minion survives, and Beagle arrests them. And then Pamela swoons into SuperPup's arms.
Yes. And Terry is there. I don't know why.
Terry, like, goes to pick up Pamela. Like, oh, this is... I guess I'll give her a ride.
It's just like, I guess let's just be there. How did he know to be there?
No idea.
How did he get there?
And SuperPup just flies away over the credits, and we get, when your product, the best of its kind, presents SuperPup. So this was clearly a proof of concept pilot to show to sponsors.
Yes, because this was going to be, Coca-Cola presents SuperPup.
Yes, this was intended to spin off of The Adventures of Superman, which was an incredibly popular television series of its time.
Absolutely. And for a silly children's show, it looks expensive.
It is. It was made for about, based on what I could find, it was made for about half the budget of a Superman episode. That being said, Superman was an extremely popular series.
Yes, and consider the fact that if this one episode was made for half the price of a Superman episode, it contained 5 characters total?
Yes.
If this were to go to series, you would need multiple characters.
You'd need at least a couple more villains.
Yes, a couple more villains, someone for SuperPup to save that's not Pup or Pamela Poodle. I mean, I guess it's technically 6 because there was also the mouse puppet, so they could have, done more puppets.
It's estimated that this was about a $25,000 to $30,000 budget, which would be about $270,000 to $320,000 in 2024 money.
Oh, wow.
So that's not a tiny budget.
No.
Especially for a children's show. So they were clearly really, really, really hoping to build off this momentum.
Yeah.
There was some theory that this was made to figure out how to rescue the franchise after the death of George Reeves, but the times do not line up.
Oh, okay.
This was before the death. This was filmed before the death of George Reeves.
Yeah, this was back when the idea of someone else playing a superhero that had already been cast was preposterous.
So, this was... there's also Superboy, which was made afterwards.
Yes, that we almost did for this episode.
But could not find.
Oh, no, I found it.
Oh, did you?
But in finding it, I was like, wait, what's SuperPup? Wait, we're doing SuperPup.
Oh, I thought you couldn't find it.
Oh, no.
Because it was pulled off
Oh,
YouTube.
no, that's right. We found it and it wouldn't work.
Yes.
And then I was searching for it on Archive and found this instead.
So, it's very much it's a pioneer of a lot of things. This show would have been definitely a pain to produce. I mean, the masks, based on my research, weighed 2 to 3 pounds, just the masks. They were made of fiberglass, so they were not comfortable.
Oh, no.
And they wanted to make better puppety masks to change expressions.
Right.
If it had gotten sent to series.
That makes sense. This was a good, proof of concept. I'm going to be honest. For me, this is a stay tuned. It's a kid's show. It's fun and silly. And, the jokes are old, but they weren't then. It's a lot of fun.
I'm of the opinion that this is one of those shows that you could just pick up and air at 4 a.m. in Adult Swim completely unchanged.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I think it would absolutely catch fire as a weird Adult Swim show in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's that kind of uncanny valley. Like I said in my notes, this walked so HR Puff and stuff could run.
Yes. And it does a good job for what it is. The story doesn't make a lot of sense, but it doesn't need to. It's all about the visuals and making little kids giggle. And I chuckled quite a bit during this. So for me, it's a stay tuned. What about you?
I would say it's a stay tuned because it seems like it was really, really interesting technologically for its day in a lot of ways. So I kind of would have liked to have seen what they would have done with more time, more money. I think it would have been super interesting.
So we put this up with the pantheon of other talking dog shows we've covered. We put it up to the rafters. We retire the jersey right next to Rosie and McDuff and Puchinsky.
I actually have a note. I wonder what part ghost these dogs are in my notes because it made me laugh. This is probably the best of the 4.
I would say it's probably the best, quality-wise, in terms of, I could believe this being a successful series. It does have, the Superman franchise behind it, but I would say that this is the best, followed by McDuff, followed by Rosie, followed by Puchinsky. I haven't seen Puchinsky in a while, though, so I might adjust that. I just remember the puppet being awful in Puchinsky.
The puppet was quite bad.
In any case, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Stay Doomed. Be sure to check out our brand new Discord, where you can talk to us about all of your favorite talking dog shows. There's a link in the description down below. Where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at Stay Doomed.
And if you want to talk about the existence of humans in the world of SuperPup, I'm at +2 Comedy on Twitter and TV's Noah on Instagram.
If you want to talk about the urban legends of children's television, I'm at Priorities. Until next time, stay doomed.